respectful, 2, practice active listening, 3, model our district 4 Cs, 4, make data-driven decisions, 5, focus on the whole district, 6, act with positive intent, and 7, govern, not manage. We steer, not row. So we'll move right into agenda item number 2, which is public comments. And we'll do this on. Kara, you can go right up somewhere. There's a computer that's in your way, just slide it over.
Okay, hello. Here for the same thing as usual. Roosevelt is beautiful. It's looking more beautiful than ever. It's cleaned up around. All the bushes, the weeds, all of that. I don't think it matters that, abatement's going on. Maybe that's a good thing. It was an older building and cleaning it out is a good idea. It's a clean slate and there's potential for it. I understand that you guys, rolled in your equipment to demolish, but I don't think that means anything. I think you should pay the men and ask them to take their stuff back and reconsider this. I love this building. I don't want to see it gone. That's really why I'm here. I keep coming to these meetings. I keep asking for the same thing. I've started to join little email, chains. We want a meeting. We want something where we can talk about potential of keeping this building. We don't want to talk about it after it's demolished. At that point, I don't think anything matters because there's nothing to replace it. There's nothing. There's no development. There's no soccer field. Nothing is good enough to replace this building. So, I've tried talking to the new mayor. He's much nicer than the old mayor. But there's not much he can do. It's all up to you. So, my phone number's on there. I know other people have tried to get in contact. I know you don't want to talk about it, but it's important to us. And I don't want to see this building gone. I visit it every single night, and you know that. And I absolutely took the opportunity a few nights ago when that gate was open. I love that building. And there's just got to be a way to not demolish it. So thank you and have a good night.
Okay. Agenda item number 3 is our budget to actual, November. Huber, Executive Director of Financial Services, will address the board.
Okay, so this is the budget to actual for November 25. Our revenue is trending pretty consistent with the prior year. At this point, we have collected the majority of our taxes, so you can see we're pretty much right on there as far as local revenue goes. Down in instruction, our adult ed, we have a little less left at this point than we did at the same time last year. We actually have a reduction in our Section 107 grant. Our allocation's gone down by about $50,000. So that is what's causing us to be down in that area. In instructional staff support, down under support services, again, this was mentioned last month. A lot of those expenditures were budgeted for some work that was done in the summer, and so instead of that being spread over the whole year, the majority of that work was done in the summer. In general admin, basically the spending is just trending down, and that's actually the board and the superintendent makes up that category. The discretionary spending, the non-salary items are actually just trending down at this point. Transportation, the October Durham bill, in the prior year it was paid at the end of November. That October bill is going to be paid this week, so that shifts into December. So that's why we have a little bit more left at this point. And then in other central support, that's where we pay for our tech. We pay those bills quarterly to Oakland Schools. Last year, we paid the second quarter, we paid that in November. This year, we're paying the second quarter in December, so it just fluctuates a little bit. And then finally, in other financing uses, as I mentioned last month, in the past years, we've had budgeted transfers to other funds to support those funds, and this year we do not have anything budgeted there. And those transfers typically happen at the end of the year, is when we make those transfers, so that's why it looks like we've spent a little more upfront than we have in the past. So, but otherwise, overall, very consistent with prior year.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Good evening. Okay, item number 4 is our Green Media Center Usage Agreement CCTV review. Dr. Danya Bazzi, Superintendent, and Jamie Stottlemyre, Executive Director of Facilities and Operations, will address the board.
So this one is preemptive a little bit to our next agenda item, to the green media usage with the West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation. Currently, CCTV utilizes Green Media Center, which is located outside the new old Chico on Walnut Lake. And so they've utilized that building since 2011. Due to the digital age that we live in, they no longer need brick and mortar to house their operation. And they notified the district that they would be leaving the space in April of 2026. With that being said, we understood that there was a need from West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation due to their recent passage of their millage, where they'll be developing a new site, that they needed some space while that was going on. CCTV holds exclusionary rights to that building through April of 2026. So in order for us to allow West Bloomfield Parks and Rec to kind of coexist with them, we have to do a third amendment to the contract, which Philip Clark from Truman Law Firm wrote up the agreement. Our lawyer worked with their lawyer to come to an agreement. Really, there wasn't many changes, anything of value between our original draft and what we sent to them. So this basically allows, it just removes the exclusionary protection that they have, that they're the only ones who can utilize the building through that. And we've been working with CCTV as well as West Bloomfield Parks and Rec in partnership all together. So this has to be approved before we can approve the other one, so it has to be done in that specific order. So we'll bring this to the board at the regular meeting in December for recommendation and consideration, and that's really it. It's the one-page third amendment.
Does anyone have any questions regarding this? Okay, very good. And we'll move on to the Green Media Center Usage Agreement with West Bloomfield Parks, agenda item number 5.
If it's all right, can I invite
Yes.
Kelly?
Kelly, hi Kelly.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Kelly.
Hello.
Kelly, can you just quickly introduce yourself?
Yes. Thanks for having me. I'm Kelly Heyer, the Executive Director for West Bloomfield Parks. And we are here on behalf of the same subject we were just talking about. So in the August of 2024, the voters passed the $25 million bond to build the community center on the Civic Center site. In order to do that, we're now at the phase where we need to move out of the Recreation Activity Center building, which is next to the library. We are demoing that 8,600 square foot building, and we will be raising up a 48,000 square foot, two-story community center. We'll have some public spaces, elevated track, gymnasium, and a brand new renovated nature center. And so with that, we have a great relationship with Civic Center TV and the school district, and it was very timely that these conversations were happening in the community. And when we were knocking on all the doors, seeing who could help us through this phase, because again, we're trying to do this as easy as possible and not any additional funds to the taxpayers. And so when we heard that Civic Center TV was moving operations to all digital, we thought, ooh, well, let's have some conversations. And again, can't thank you enough for this opportunity and consideration. I am available tonight for questions, but also in the next 2 weeks. The only conflict for me, December 15th, is a township board meeting that I'm required to be at. So I won't be able to be present physically in 2 places. So, but I wanted to make sure I came tonight to assure that this is only administrative use. Our nature staff,
And some
admin.
animals.
Yeah, the animal ambassador, so nothing huge. We have permits from everything.
If we find a snake at that job site, I swear to God.
But yeah, so we just needed the space to house some desks. All the recreation functions are staying at our senior center through the transition period.
But you needed public interaction availability too, right? So
Actually, the way we're setting up, we don't even have to have customers come inside
Mhm.
the Green Media Center. All of that will be at our senior center. We will have somebody answering our main phones at that place, at Green, at that location. And our outreach for all of our nature education will happen somewhere else. So normally, when school kiddos come in, they would come to the nature center. Well, we're just going to make that all outreach services, so they'll come to the classrooms or maybe another location at a different park. So we'll work with the teachers who book all those appointments. As for other nature outreach that we do operationally, again, we're just moving operations to other locations. So there's no parking and there's very limited space, even though the facility is 3,000 square feet. But again, we're just using it as for all the administration. Another great thing, because we didn't need all of the rooms, Civic Center TV we had some behind the scenes conversations. They would like to keep the IT room live and the connection to the school district's fiber as well as the township fiber, so they will still seamlessly be able to record and do what they need to do behind the scenes to do all the public meetings. So that's another win-win, is they're going to keep some of that equipment in that back room to keep everything just as business as usual. And then when the 2 years come up, we'll figure out what that looks like after that.
Anyone have any questions? Anything? I will just do like a shout out, like, I was at the township meeting, I think it was a month ago or whatever, and you presented. And it's really exciting what you presented, and I think our community is going to just really embrace that new facility and the opportunities that are gonna be present there. It's just phenomenal, so kudos to your team.
All right, I will make sure I extend that to them.
So when I know demo is first, but when do they think they're gonna break ground, in the spring?
Yeah, so the reason why this, I guess the timeline didn't work out exactly perfectly is because we are at the point where we need to figure out the exact demo phase. And that is the next couple of months. We're hoping to break ground in April and have demo either start then or completed around then. It's a 16-month construction period for the community center, and we're hoping to be in the fall of 2027. So, but we all know how projects go, so.
Oh, we know.
Yes, we do. Okay, well, if anyone thinks of any questions in the meantime, please send them and we will get them answered.
Yep.
And,
And I'm available, calls, emails, I will come do one of these with anybody, so. Very available. But again, thank you for the opportunity, and we just really appreciate the partnership. And I think the last couple of years, we've had some really clever, creative things that we've done together jointly as West Bloomfield Parks and West Bloomfield Schools. And some really great things planned for the future.
wonderful. Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kelly. Have a good night.
Drive careful, there's lots of deer out there. Agenda item number 6 is our new Chico furniture package review. Jamie Stottlemyre, Executive Director of Facilities, and TMP Kelly.
The star of the show, Carrie Sini, and we also have Bill Weinrock over there. And Blaine McDowell is in the audience too.
Did you want everybody to come up?
Yeah, why don't you guys come up here, in case there's questions, we have
There's a
enough,
chair
we
there.
have one more chair. Why not? Let's share it.
Okay, cool.
Sharing is
And I can
caring.
use this to
Yes.
advance. Perfect, thank you.
It is in a PDF format, so if you just use 2 fingers and scroll down.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So just as a real quick, you know, obviously we're making good progress on the building. We're scheduled to have the building done in June, so we will be doing the punch list in July, so it's ready for students in August. So Carrie will go through the timing of this furniture, but that's why we're bringing this to you tonight, because we want to have the furniture ready for the students.
So thank you for having me this evening. I'm really excited to present this because there has been so much work and conversations, and Blaine can vouch for that, of what went into this package. So before I go into some more specifics, I want to give you some context as to how we landed on the decisions that you'll see this evening. So starting with the guiding principles of the Chico building, I know this group has seen these before. These were the guiding principles that drove the design for the whole building. And these came about in the fall of 2023. So I've actually been saying that we've been preparing even for these furniture conversations for over 2 years. And again, so I'm very excited to finally bring this to you. This is our schedule and process, and it might be hard to read on this screen, but the point that I'm trying to make here is how many meetings and conversations we've had on the furniture package, and this doesn't even cover all of them. These cover the meetings we had with user groups, but intertwined between March and September was 2 field trips to North Carolina for professional development around furniture, separate conversations with, you know, the Eye Center, the Eye Center specialist, special education and different types of people, separate conversations and visits to the pilot, which we'll also talk about in a moment. So what you see here actually runs a lot deeper than what you see on paper. So a lot of conversations, revisions, yes. And so going into the pilot, so I have to give credit to Amy Quinn and Blaine because the idea of this pilot came about in March of how about we test out some of this furniture. And a lot of this furniture already exists in the district, but more deeper of how do we think of the furniture as a tool to help in learning. Instead of just a chair or a table, how can this be a tool for our students to learn best? So we piloted in summer school, and it was a short, a very in-depth pilot. So we piloted a rising 1st grade classroom and a rising 5th grade classroom. We went out, we visited the pilots. Scott Long was there as well on one of those visits. We had some key teacher leaders from Chico come along as well, and Blaine and Amy, and conducted a lot of conversations in real time. So I wanted to share some of these pictures of the pilot in action and provide some context. So upper left corner, we see a soft bench, which, you know, an adult might say, that's a bench that you sit on. Well, these rising 1st grade students observed it as a work surface as well. So what we usually like to dive into is students will tell us how to use the furniture instead of us having those prescriptive postures. Upper right-hand corner, you see Scott interacting and connecting really well with these 2 students. While Scott can connect with any student, I really want to note how the furniture made it easy for him to do that. Scott was comfortably seated on a bench while these students were comfortably standing at the work surface. And that really leveled the field, and he was able to have that direct sightline communication with those students. The lower left-hand corner, what we see is guided instruction. So this was something that Blaine kept bringing to us of how important it is, and it happens every day in the classrooms, and the furniture needs to support that. So we piloted 2 different ways to accommodate that, and you'll see another way on the next slide. But this was one, and for these rising 1st graders, there was some trial and error here as well. We talked to that teacher that was piloting, and she said, you know, this is not working, but maybe this is if I pull up a desk here. So very informative. And in the lower right-hand corner, we see, this is what we call the leaf. And these 2 students wanted to work together, but be a little bit secluded in the space. You can also see that while seclusion is happening here, it's also very easy to supervise these students. So I think these pictures tell a really good story. When we get to the rising 5th grade classroom, a lot of the furniture pieces are the same, but of course the youngers are different than the older elementaries. The upper left-hand corner, we see Amy and Blaine there testing out the furniture with some of those teachers. Same in the upper right-hand corner. Amy gave a great description to the students of how the furniture can help their learning. The lower left corner, while I talk about that interaction, that seamless interaction between students and teachers, these students were seated at a high top and the teacher was able to seamlessly approach the table and guide them on the exercise that they were working on. Lower right-hand corner, what I talked about is guided instruction. This was another way that we tested this out, and this teacher found this really valuable, and some specifics with the furniture, that the surface is writable, and those tables can also flip up and be a marker board surface. So very dual component, and you'll see that these items that we tested out do show up in the actual package. Lifelong learning, we know that learning never stops. I think everybody in this room can vouch for that. But on the left-hand side, we see some key teacher leaders at Chico testing out some of the furniture. They were able to kick the tires and really test out how it can support their teaching. And at the right corner, we see Blaine is in there as well. And Amy, you can't see her in the picture, but she's at that table. Really positioning around a dynamic table shape and how it can support collaboration. And Blaine, please interrupt at any point.
Okay.
This is your show too. So then it's like, okay, how do we make this more tangible? Chico is a brand new building. We have to furnish every space, and it's a large building. So just reminding you of the floor plan, which you've seen many times. So then how do we break it down into guiding principles again? You saw the guiding principles for the architectural design. We wanted to get a little bit deeper into furniture. And so these are the guiding principles for furniture. All decisions were driven through these. Holism, so I'm not gonna read all of them word for word, I'm gonna summarize them. Holism is furniture that accommodates all abilities and bodies and learning needs. We know that especially preschool through 5th grade, the size of those students changes drastically. So we need to make sure that the size accommodates those students. Ownership, furniture that empowers that agency, supports metacognitive awareness, so students being aware of how a furniture is supporting their learning. So for example, if a student is, rocking too much, the teacher might say, is that the best piece of furniture for your learning at that point? So helping the students become aware of that. And also having the teachers take ownership of rearranging that classroom. Movement, furniture that normalizes those macro movements and those micro movements. So movement in moving the furniture around the space, but also micro movements of how they move inside the piece of furniture. Exploration, furniture that invites curiosity and imaginative play. This comes very important in the commons area as well. And sensory, furniture that celebrates the diverse sensory needs of each learner.
So it does spell homes, the theme of the school
Did
is
anybody get
Michigan,
that?
so
Thanks for mentioning
if
that.
you know your 5 Great Lakes, if you're on Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior,
Yes.
we use those as, a little acronym to help us remember the guiding principles to stay focused, so.
Thank
Yes.
you. And then we really needed to make everybody aware of the important things that furniture needs to do. And we presented this at the beginning of every meeting, really to tell these teachers that these are the things that are gonna happen automatically. You don't have to worry about them, there are promises. And that is durability. The furniture will be durable. It's manufactured for educational environments, and we know how brutal those can be. Size, it will be appropriately sized for students at each grade level. Mobility, it will be equipped with glides or casters suited to the designated floor finish, preventing damages to floors and ensuring unhindered movement. That's a detail item that we definitely pay attention to. And spare, so spare pieces of select furniture will be stored in a designated area for replacement in the event of damage, loss, or the need to accommodate additional students or staff. So So we do have attic stock already accommodated in these quotes that meets that spare baseline need. Okay, so now getting into the actual furniture. So I'm gonna go into the classrooms. So I'm gonna show you the plan view at first for kindergarten through 5th grade, and then I'll show you the pictures of some of the pieces. So this is K-Prep and kindergarten. This is the furniture plan. This is a lot of colors, but what this shows you is the variety that you see in each of the classrooms. So a variety of table shapes, variety of table sizes, variety of seating types. And when talking to Blaine and Amy and the curriculum team and Scott is how frequently activities change at the elementary level. I think Amy Quinn said anywhere between 8 and 15 minutes. So a student might not be seated in that spot for more than 15 minutes. We wanted to make sure that there was a lot of that variety to accommodate each student. And then if there's a student who, you know, a student might need something different from minute to minute, from hour to hour. So making sure that's accommodated as well. So in kindergarten and kindergarten prep, we did accommodate some of the more dramatic play furniture in there. We have a play kitchen, we have an imagination station, which is a puppet station. We have soft seating, floor seats, and again, you'll see pictures of that in just a moment. In Plan View, grades 1 through 2, you'll see that Plan View, they don't look wildly different. And this is a benefit because the students, they're gonna have their expectations set, even at preschool, of how to interact with the furniture and how the furniture can be managed. And they can know moving up that that furniture is not gonna change drastically. And I also forgot to mention, we have the rug in each classroom as well. This is grades 3 to 5. So you'll see not a lot of variation between kindergarten and 5th grade. The size changes as we talked about, but the pieces stay pretty consistent.
Can I just ask a question, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when you just mentioned the rug, there was carpet in those rooms as well.
Yes.
So it's a rug on top of the carpet. So
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure everybody knows
Yes,
it. Okay.
preschool classrooms are linoleum, but kindergarten prep through 5th grade is carpet.
Okay.
Yes. So here are some images of those pieces. Everything is not gray. I just make the images gray so you're not put off by the finishes and it's so visually overstimulating. But what we see on the top left here is we have some of the student seating. So we have a cantilever leg chair. These are already in the district. But we also have some chairs that are on casters with a height adjustment, which is really nice for a student that needs to get higher up if they need a shorter ratio between seat height and table height. We have rocking stools. We have what we call log ottomans, which you can sit in it in many different ways. We have a task chair for all the teachers. Each teacher will have a mobile lectern in the classroom. And then we have the mobile storage that you see on the top right. So we have the tote storage that you can pull out the totes, bring them to the tables. And the great thing is those totes work seamlessly with all of the totes in the teaching room. So there is so much storage that is interchangeable. We also have some shelving, which is important for book storage. We see in the middle row, all the way on the left, that is a soft curved bench. You saw that in the pilot pictures. And we have the leaf, you saw that in the pilot pictures as well. Right in the middle there, this is a piece that is very dynamic. It can be a flat ottoman, or the back can come up, and it can provide a little bit of a cozy area for a student that needs that sensory feeling. And all the upholstered pieces are upholstered in vinyl, wipeable, very cleanable. The floor seat and the lap desk, these can be used in many different ways, but some students just like to sit on the floor. Rugs, of course, and we were intentional about providing ones that had the sit spots for organization. And then on the bottom, we have our table surfaces, a variety of shapes, as I mentioned. So all the way on the bottom left, we have that flip-up table that I talked about in the pilot classroom in the Rising 5th grade. So marker board top, that can be flipped up, used as a marker board surface, but also pushed off to the side if they needed to clear a little floor space. We have stacking table as well, with that same wave table shape, but 4 legs that can stack. We have a height adjustable round table, that's an on-demand height adjustment. You saw a picture of that in the pilot classroom where Scott Long was in that picture. We have a semicircle shape, great for guided instruction, and we also have what we call the thumbprint, which are all over the middle school. So some of you might be familiar with those. And then special education, we have very specific conversations about these spaces with those teachers as well. Very important to be a little bit more specific with their needs. What you will see though is that the furniture is pretty much the same in those spaces. The quantities might vary though. And the idea behind that is that the special education students have the same experience as the general education students. And if they're in the self-contained, that experience is equal. But if they're in a resource type setting, that if they're going from the resource classroom back to their general classroom, that the furniture is the same. They know how to interact with it, and that experience of transition is not so overwhelming to them. This is ASD, again, very specific. The rug gets a little bit smaller here. We have a little bit of a smaller classroom footprint, but also less students. Storage needs differ here a little bit, and we made sure to accommodate more space for the paraprofessionals. And the commons. So I know to the board you all have a copy of this. I encourage you to read this on your own time as to really the intention behind some of these groupings. And when my team was looking at how do we furnish this large space and make it do all the things. We know it needs to be a fun space, it needs to be engaging, it needs to be a workspace, so not all fun and indoor recess. So we really wanted to divide this into what we call caves, campfires, and watering holes. So caves are the areas that students might go, or teachers, for a quieter area to work. Campfire is an area to gather, to get information. And a watering hole is a space to gather, get information, then go and do an activity. So this is all accommodated in the space. I encourage you to read about some of these groupings when you can. This is really, it's gonna be a magnificent space. Some pictures here. Of course, there are tables and chairs in there as well for small group instruction, but this is some of the fun stuff that you see. We have on the upper left, we have these log ottomans that can be seated in different ways, and the visual of them really adds to the whole concept of the building. The curved mobile storage, that's important because we're going to be putting some books out on those. We heard all through the design process that literacy is so important, and not just in the eye center, that we need to see that in the common space. We have makerspace tables in there. You can store Legos in there. In the top row, we have some turf-covered pieces. So the turf that you might see on a field without all the rubber pellets is actually upholstering these pieces. And we piloted them.
We piloted those in the eye center, so students actually got to try them out, and I would say they're by far, so far at least, the most popular furniture because they just like to feel them. But I also like that if you notice in the bottom right-hand corner, like that a student can actually sit in that pentagon there.
Yes.
But then when you flip it over, it can be used as a bench. And even in the month or so that we had the furniture, the students were really able to interact with the furniture and use it very appropriately. And they just really enjoyed it for reading and to be cozy and, you know, just to sit on the different turf pieces like with their friend and read a book. I mean, it just got used in a lot of different ways. It was very popular.
It's really nice for the sensory, the tactile experience. We actually piloted 3 different manufacturers for this type of furniture, and really the answer was that they liked all of them. So there's different types of turf pieces within the common space. In the middle row, we see the Adirondack chairs. So those are in the boardwalk. So we got really playful there, put some of those Adirondack chairs, both adult size and student size. On the left-hand side on the bottom, we see some outdoor picnic tables as well, so we're really adding to that boardwalk experience. We have, in the middle, you see some platforms that can be used as a work surface or a informal presentation area. This piece, I don't know if you can, oh, you can see my cursor. This piece here, this is actually at the Magnet Classrooms at Scotch. A really valued piece here as well. It can sit upright and students can climb in it, or it can sit flat on the floor, kind of like a hot tub experience. So very versatile, again, upholstered all in vinyl. And then over here we have more upholstered pieces. These are foam, so more like large foam blocks, but they can be arranged in a little bit of a tiered seating arrangement, but in many different ways. Great for indoor recess as well. And then preschool, you'll see a lot of consistency here as well for preschool, but we did need to add in the dramatic play. We talked to the preschool teachers as well. We talked about the universal preschool and modeling those classrooms after GSRP and knowing that those stations are very important. So we accommodated those. And then now getting into cost of the package, of course, very important information. So I am going to start at the total award amount is $2,139,191.27. What is included in that total award amount is the quote total that you see on top. So all of this furniture has already been priced that you see, and the quote total is listed there. We always recommend about a 5% contingency. An example is if a dealer has to make a return trip to site or double handle furniture in any way, that would be covered by contingency. Or if we move in and they say, we need a couple more bookshelves in the eye center, that's covered under contingency. And you see that that is below the bond budget. So we are in a positive variance of over $200,000, which is wonderful. I did want to note some items not in this package right now is outdoor furniture, which we will be discussing, performance risers, and soft climbing elements that we might add into the commons areas. So when those do get designed and priced out, we will come back to you with those. We did not want to hold up the rest of the furniture package. While these took a little bit more time, again, we didn't want to hold up the whole furniture.
One thing I did want to mention is this $2.4 million number. That was included in the AUK estimate back in December of '24 when we brought that package 4 to you. AUK had presented an entire sheet, and at the bottom you'll see that same number, and that's for the FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So we are maintaining that budget.
And then, what is next? If approved, purchase orders should be issued before the holidays or in early January. TMP will work with the purchasing department to get all the contact information of where to issue those POs. Between January and June, the furniture will be manufactured, which is great. It's a really long time, which is really wonderful. There's no concerns about getting it on time. We're actually ahead of the school rush. Thanks to Danya, she was like, we want to be ahead of the game, and we are, and it's a beautiful thing. And Blaine and her team will continue to study how to live into the new learning environments. I know Blaine has a wonderful plan
That
for
has really been amazing. In addition to 2 different, all the summer field trips like from 2 years ago that involved staff, and then some teachers being able to go to North Carolina for furniture studies, piloting in the summer. All of our staff meetings this year have been dedicated to using space in innovative ways and furniture design. So the teachers have been a part of we separated K2 and 3-5, and so we moved all the furniture that's similar to what's in the furniture package to the side, gave some scenario questions like, you're gonna start your lesson whole group, then the kids are gonna move into partner work, then groups of 4, then you're gonna come back together as a group. and design your room, and they could see how easy it was to design a room. They talked about it and placed all the furniture in 5 minutes, and they designed the room for that learning experience for that day. So we're really trying to help teachers know that you don't have to set up your classroom for the beginning of the year and keep it that way all year. That like, there's lots of times where you would change your room for the learning experience of that day or that week or that month. We've also done a lot with book buddies. So as we learn to use the collaboration spaces, we're kind of practicing that learning doesn't happen always inside the 4 classroom walls. So they've planned lessons in the courtyard, they've planned lessons in the atrium, and they've done a lot of that with their book buddies, just so that they're used to planning in new and innovative ways. So they've been really great. And David Stubbs came from VS Furniture and did a presentation that was similar to the one that he did in North Carolina, really to try to help teachers know that like they don't need to take every single thing that they've ever had for 30 years with them. Kind of getting on that sort of mode, and that everything is provided and they just have to bring their books and their curriculum and their manipulatives, and like we'll be good to go. So really getting in the right mindset for the big move to come.
Thank you. And then once the furniture installs, TMP will deploy a team of people to punch list all the furniture. So we look at every piece to make sure it's installed as specified and there's no damage. So that's a really thorough process, and then we work on, we do not recommend you pay 100% until all punch lists are complete. So that's the kind of the closeout process.
You don't come back every month and clean it? No.
Clean it?
Yeah, I'm just checking.
That's a lot. And then that is all I had.
Any questions or comments? Yes.
Did you get a chance, I know when you went to North Carolina, to go to a school with classrooms that have this furniture there to see how they say the kids are used to using it?
So while we were in North Carolina, we didn't visit any schools. I think the group that went in September though, there was a case study there was a district in mid-Michigan who talked about this transformation of the furniture. Unfortunately, last minute, I was not able to go on that trip, but I know that was an experience that was participated in. Personally, as a designer that does this all education, I have a lot of experience with this furniture and that I've taken forward with me as I design and talk to the groups at Chico. But yeah.
And we've done that more through the pilots, I would say, really all along the way, especially though in summer school and then at the beginning of this school year, because thankfully West Bloomfield does have a lot of flexible seating and a lot of this furniture to draw from already. But what has really been enhanced this year is the professional development that goes with it, the why behind it, the science of it. Talk to any teacher at Chico and I would say at least half of them would never want to use or see another wobble stool if their life depended on it. And after going through the training though and understanding really the why, like I think our staff in particular is looking at furniture and maybe furniture that they didn't think that they liked really in a whole new way, because they do really understand the science behind it from everything they learned in North Carolina. Then those teachers have come back to present also at the, it was a lot of Chico teachers at summer school piloting there, and then we piloted more furniture this fall in the iCenter. So like it's been lots of nuggets of good professional development to bring the staff along with us.
And secondly, the positive variance is really nice. Does that have anything to do with size and market?
Honestly, it has a lot to do with volume that you're purchasing a lot of furniture, so the discounting structure was very aggressive.
It will be put to use though for things like riser and then any outdoor
Yes.
furniture that we need, things like this. So
We need gym equipment too,
Yeah.
that probably come
Yes.
from that.
Yes.
So that will be utilized obviously for
Yes.
equipment and furnishings as needed.
So we're sticking to the budget.
Yes.
But we're
yes.
sticking to the budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Watching it closely.
Yeah, So thank you so much for the presentation. I just have two questions. The first one is around the budget. So if we look at the bond, $2.4 million is what we have aligned for the furniture and fixtures. And so the variance of 288, my question is, because we don't have the outdoor furniture or the performance risers or the soft climbing elements or the gym equipment, then how do we stay within budget? So what is the estimate for those particular elements so we can maintain a budget? Because we still have another school to go and some more things to do.
Yes.
So how do we stay in that $2.4 million budget with things that are still outstanding? And do we need to adjust this total to make sure we are within that $2.4 million?
So, and that's a great question. Based on the estimates, I am 100% confident that we will be within the positive variance to accommodate those items and the gym equipment. And honestly, for example, the soft climbing elements, if we do come to a fork in the road or like something needs to be cut, those soft climbing elements are something that could be cut if we needed to. But I'm confident we will not need to do that.
So is it possible that we can see something, just like we're seeing it here on paper, that we could see what the estimate of those would be? And although, again, I can respect and appreciate that we want to, say go now because we want the furniture in front of us, but also understand our commitment, to this budget. So if we could see that, that would be great. And we know when we approve it, it will be well within the budget.
Yes, so you're looking for an estimate for the outdoor furniture, for the performance risers and the soft elements?
And the gym equipment as well, because then that way we know that $2.4 million, is our budget and we're staying within that. It's just great to see it.
Well, Carrie, just if I may, that will be an estimate because we haven't went through the same type of process that we went with the furniture to get staff feedback and things like this. Things like outdoor furniture, again, is something we hope to accommodate, but again, it's one of those things where we'll take it as far as the budget will allow us. The things that really are non-negotiables are just the performance risers for choir and the gym equipment, which we can get quotes on what those will be. The other ones are going to be, there's no specific requirement for outdoor furniture. Most of our elementaries, Scotch, we just went in, I think with the PTO to get some outdoor furniture and testing that out. So
Is it like benches and stuff, or is it
No,
using
like-
something
like
outside?
it's
like a small outdoor classroom space.
Yeah,
Like for
outside.
Yeah,
our
Outdoor
it's like
whiteboards
outdoor
and seating
whiteboards and
areas.
seatings, and those are nice to have, and we wanna hope to have those, but we have to furnish the classrooms and, the main learning spaces first, and then with what's left over, we'll be able to do the rest. But we can give a generic, but.
Just an
Yeah,
estimate, that's what I
we can
was
give-
saying earlier.
Yeah, we can
estimate
give a
would be great.
generic, but, until the team goes through those and.
Yes.
And then the second question is around dynamic learning. So, I notice, and it's exciting when you see all the furniture and the placement and whatever. When we talk about that and we talk about student achievement, again, student achievement being, the North Star. So again, how does this furniture or what studies, have been researched to say that this is, or the placement of this furniture then produces a certain level of student outcomes? So again, we got designers all day that say, that it's great, or companies that say that we like it. But then how do we then go back and kind of marry that with student achievement, and how do we promote or the learning styles in which our teachers would use? How would that vary, and how do we measure the outcome based on the placement of the furniture? Is there some kind of, educate me, so, because again,
Yes.
I want our kids to be smart, so.
Of course, exactly. So when we look at this furniture and the variety that it provides to the students, we like to think that more students are accommodated in the way that they're learning. So instead of them being told, sit in one spot, don't move, face forward, we know that West Bloomfield is actually long past that. So we want to make sure that this furniture is providing what West Bloomfield has been doing for quite some time now. And correct me, anyone if I'm wrong.
Totally.
This dynamic learning is nothing new to the district. And that furniture just makes it a lot easier for them to do that.
I would say continual professional development.
Yes.
Because you have early adopters, and we've seen those in the past, our early adopters, and then we have ones that have taken a long time to change the way they've taught for many years. So I think it's
Yes.
continual professional development, because even things that you guys experienced, we did do that in 18, 19, and 20. But
Exactly.
you have to be receptive and see it in action, and then COVID hit, and then and we went back a little bit because of COVID criteria. But I think it's professional development. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No,
It really is, and as we've been doing the professional development, I actually worked with Danya and Johanna to create a plan with Carrie, so that we had a dedicated plan to teaching teachers about it too, really the science behind movement and engagement and ways that bring learners along, all based on the guiding principles of what our team put together too. So we've done different research studies. The pilots give teachers a chance to talk with students, and have the students reflect on, ways that they've been taught in the past, and what do you think about how we did things this summer? And both the little ones, and then Mr. Wilson, who's a teacher at Chico, did the rising 5th grade classroom. So we got a lot of anecdotal type stories too, in addition to just research studies that other people have done. We wanted to do our own research with our own students. And so we've gotten a lot of positive feedback that way, but especially about the movement. And then when you combine that with the amount of natural light that has been intentionally designed in the building and the research that goes along with that, I feel like it's really the total picture, the design of the building and the furniture, that will make optimal learning conditions for students and student achievement, of course.
I think the fact that it was piloted over summer school was was wonderful too, because for some students, those might be students that need the support in the classroom more. So making sure that the furniture isn't a distraction to them and does support them in their learning was really important during that time.
I think for me too, it's really important if we do look at that and look at our student and, assessments that are done on our students to make sure that we are performing, at a level that continues to increase our proficiency level and not just maintain it.
For sure. Agreed.
Anybody else have questions or comments? Kristen?
Thank you for your budget question, because that was my question. So that was off the list, so thank you for that. A question about the carpet. You said that the tables and chairs are all sizable. The squares on the carpet, are they sizable?
Say more, what do you mean,
So this.
On the
rug, yes,
Rug,
sorry, the
okay.
rug. Are those sizable based on each of the grade levels? Because there's a big difference between our kindergartners, our 3rd graders, and then our 5th graders on
of course.
this space when you're sitting next to someone.
That's a great question. They're the same size. They're sized more for a 5th grader, but a kindergartner can sit within it instead of a bigger 5th grader trying to fit into kindergartner size.
Right.
That was a really great question.
Doing crisscross applesauce
Yes.
as a 5th grader.
Yes.
Really hard in some of those squares, so
Yes.
thank you.
Of course.
I didn't get to sit on the rug. They made me sit in the corner.
Sorry.
Anybody else? I just I'm very happy to see about the delivery times, because the last time we purchased furniture was the middle school, and that was during COVID. And it was almost like a year-long delivery. We did
Yes.
get it on time, but I remember it being a very stressful, hoping that we would get it on time before the rush. And that was also a May, June delivery, so, it's nice to see that has changed.
Yeah, and I
Absolutely.
really can't say enough good things about VS. I mean, I knew from just being dean of students at the middle school that one of the things that I was kind of keeping my eye out for is that when we got the middle school furniture, they had at the tops of a lot of the tables, these little caps. And they've made improvements to their designs too. So the kids would take off the caps and stuff paper down there. I was
It's
telling
into the legs, you guys.
the legs, yeah. So I was telling the rep about this, and that I don't want that for Chico, And she's like, oh, we've made an improvement in that design. And she's like, well, how many tables at the middle school do you think are like that? So I called up one of my teacher friends. I'm like, how many tables do you think are like that? So there were over 5,000 caps, and they came over a break, and they cleaned out any garbage in the tables. They have a new design process. They resealed them all, got all new caps, and it was over 5,000 caps, and that was, however long ago now we got that. But I feel like they just had such good customer service, followed up from a fleeting comment that I made. I mean, I was really impressed, and called me and made it happen and worked with the middle school. So I just really love that they stand behind the durability, and just the customer service was exemplary.
They're a great company. Anybody else? Exciting. Thanks for all the dedicated work. I mean,
Thank you.
I know, and I know that I haven't talked to any of our teachers, but I know that they are very appreciative to be part of all of those conversations.
Yes, because
And
Carrie has
input.
come to present to staff too.
I will tell you, in our 17 bond, we did not have that as part of the program with our architect, so it was done in-house. So it was, in fact, at that time, furniture wasn't even like a big deal. It turned into a big deal because we made it turn into a big deal, but we didn't have that level of design and professionalism. So
Didn't have a Carrie.
we didn't have a Carrie, that's for sure.
I'm so
But-
And Jen.
But I can see how valuable it is, so
Thank you.
I didn't even know that was a thing back then, so.
It's been a joy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody, you want anything?
No, just thanks to the team.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Christine Guest, thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 7 is our Chico DTE easement. Jamie is up again.
I'm up again. So back in May, I brought to the board, which we approved, the water main easement and also the stormwater easement. This is the third of our easements, and it's for the DTE energy access to the building. So DTE essentially owns the power feeds from the road all the way to the transformer, which is located in the back corner of the building. And then we own the secondary then from the transformer into the gear. So any repairs that have to be made, DTE would come out and cover the cost of those repairs. So basically, we still own the land. This just grants DTE the rights to come out and make any repairs that are needed. Like we mentioned here, we did have our legal team review this easement to protect our interests. We had the engineers working with the DTE engineers on actually coming up with this placement and to provide this easement. So if we look at the easement documents, very similar to the ones you saw for the water main and for the stormwater. Essentially, the DTE power trench follows this drive all the way to the back of the building, and we have our transformer back here right next to the generator, which have been placed. So this is just a generic picture of what a trench looks like where they have the primary lines coming into the building. So essentially, that is it. So we're gonna be asking for approval of this easement.
We've done this before.
Yeah, we've done it before.
I think we just did the middle school finalized it, right?
Yes.
I was trying to think,
Yeah,
we just.
after the fact, we did the middle school.
Yeah, okay. Anyone have any questions about this? Good.
I do, just for my interest and understanding, so, do we have a generator if lights go out?
I'm sorry,
Like
Jeremy.
generator if the lights go out, so, I
Yes.
was looking at that saying, they must be putting something in there, so.
Yes, we do have a
features
generator
that-
that powers the emergency lights. It also powers the walk-in coolers in the kitchen, so we don't
And
lose
then-
food if there's a power outage, yes.
Good.
Okay. Yes. Okay, thank you, Jamie.
All right, thank you.
Agenda item number 8 is our enrollment update on miraculous assistance for school administration. So, address the board.
So we have some numbers here. This is based off of our fall certified data. That's the certification that we send. And just a reminder that our certified data is different than our audited data. So now it will go for auditing, and so we'll get hopefully the same numbers back on February. But this is our certified data. So, we had budgeted for 196 student loss. Our actual loss, based on our certified data, is 266.73 FTE. Which is, we use FTE for this because that's what we get paid on. We do have some 3-year enrollment trends by school. These are the number of students that are enrolled at those schools. So at Chico, for example, you can see we've 375 resident students and 125 school choice residents. That data goes all the way down. Last year, we began tracking ECSE separately. So you can see last year that's here. And this year we have an increase in ECSE students. So that gives us a little bit of prediction of what the following year may look like for enrollment of special education students in our K-12 programming. All right. In terms of the 3-year school choice trends, you can see here, there was really a pretty substantial change in 24-25 based on the redistricting. However, in the ensuing year, there's been relatively stable percentages at the different schools. Our highest percentage of SOC students is at OEC, where we really pull from the whole county for that program. Our net change comparison to previous years is listed here. We did see some enrollment increases at Greshko. Our ECSE program has gone up significantly percentage-wise. And then we see that our other programs have a decrease in students, which was expected. One area where we did see a significant decrease is in our kindergarten enrollment. Our kindergarten enrollment is lower in the 25-26 school year than it was in the 24-25 school year. So that was one area that contributed to lower numbers, and those are listed here on this slide. Again, you can see at the bottom there was an increase in our ECSE programming. Percentage-wise, it's a fairly large increase. And then for each of the grade levels at the elementary, you can see the number of students and then the number of students that are SOC out of that whole number. So in kindergarten, 275, with 55 of them being SOC. The board approved enrollment criteria for our kindergarten students, so that is part of, I believe, what has factored into those numbers. Here is a table that has our K-5 and ECSE by grade. I think this was a request from earlier, so it's included here. And that gives an idea of how many resident and SOC students there are for each grade by school at the elementary level. All right. Scotch and Chico continue to be our largest schools. Greshko is our smallest. Doherty's not actually that far behind Scotch and Chico. It's at 408. All right, if we take a look at our secondary enrollment by grade, we have seen some decrease at certain grade levels. A reminder that the 12th grade does include some of the OEC students who are staying on, so we continue to retain them. In terms of average SOC, we pull this from a report called the Data Summary Report. This year it's at 36.5%. That's based on our certified data. Our SOC percentages change every day because students move in and out of the district. Every single day we're dropping students, every single day we're adding students. After the SOC period, we're only adding resident students throughout the year, but SOC students regularly drop throughout the school year. Just, you know, they move or family moves or for various reasons. We're holding pretty steady overall. We only have one slot left to fill. It's probably already filled as of today for GSRP, which is really great. We have fully filled those GSRP slots. And we've moved almost all of our classrooms over to the GSRP model, which is wonderful. So I think that's gonna bode well for us for kindergarten in the future. Just a couple other pieces of information. You know, one of the questions was, well, where are the kids going? So I can give a couple examples. This year we had 38 students who moved out of the state or country. Last year we only had 14. So we have those types of anomalies that have happened this year, which has added to a little bit of increase in the number of students who were dropped from the initial number that we estimated. We did send 5,120 records, which were submitted for head count. When we submit records, that includes every student who's been enrolled in the district since July 1st. And then when the secretaries come back from the summer, they process all the drops. For our head count at that point was 4,878 after the count day drops. That's accurate for our FTE. Our FTE is always, our head count's always a little bit higher than our FTE because we have programs like Refuge, where for some students we only earn 0.11 FTE because we're only teaching one class out of their day. So our head count's not as accurate as FTE count is for budgeting.
Okay. Questions? I just have, while you were talking, it made me think of this when we were talking about the elementary schools. Do we know if our ELL population has gone down just based on the atmosphere politically with people moving in from foreign countries?
I don't know that number exactly, but I do know that we had many students move out of the country. We do have a lot of diplomats kids here,
Yeah.
so many of them have gone home at a higher number than we.
And usually they get replaced though, and I'm just
Correct.
I'm
And
just
we haven't-
curious if
yeah, we haven't seen the same replacement level.
Okay.
Another interesting, you know, we're always looking at the data to tailor the way that we enroll students at that kindergarten level. For the first time, we're starting to see students who are not enrolling because of homeschooling. So that's new as well.
And what about transitional kindergarten? That's lower too this year, right?
It is, yeah,
So that also impacts the kindergarten.
it does.
Hopefully it's just a blip. We don't know. Okay, anyone else have any other questions, Kirsten?
I have a couple questions. Thank you for the chart. I appreciate that. I appreciate answering the questions of where's, you know, some of the students going. So 38 out of state or country. That's still a small blip on the number of students that we did lose. Donnie, I apologize. I did not check my email right before I walked in.
You're fine.
I understand FTE. My question was, what is our current head count? I understand for budgeting. My question is, all through the rest of the presentation, we're talking about head count, and so I just want to know what is our head count overall at this point?
So on the day that the data was pulled, it was 4,878.
Okay.
It's not today though.
That's right. I know that's right, but I was adding all of this up, and that's why I sent the 4,417 was the number I came up with, and so that's why I was
It doesn't
asking.
include like refuge students, for example, or other participation programs that
Okay.
we have with other districts or private schools.
I appreciate
Those
that.
are all counted as head count.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And then with the number of kindergarten, that's what I was gonna ask, like what are we gonna do with this data that we have? Like, what, do we have a plan to move forward with that? Will you be presenting that to us at a later time?
So that's, actually Andrea's department, who does, the, enrollment component. We do have plans for that. Some of the plans that we have in place are, going to come to fruition in a few years. One of them, for example, is we're partnering with the hospital. We give every newborn baby in West Bloomfield a book, but they're 0 years old right now, so, we started that last year. So, 3 years from now, we expect to begin to see some of those types of efforts, come to fruition. But we do have, some data, we track all of the reasons that students are not enrolling, that we can. Sometimes they don't provide us with a reason. But for example, we have, some PK who never registered with us, so we'll really have some outreach for them, and Andrew's planning some events for those students in the district, so I think, we'll see some good things come out of that.
One thing, I'm sorry, one thing to clarify though is, I understand that it seems like it's a small amount of the total, but the expected loss based on enrollment projections was around 200. That's the expected
And the
loss.
graduating senior
And
class.
because the graduating senior class is much larger than the recent kindergarten classes, what we're really looking at is
Where did those 6
why that 66 that we weren't expecting, that's where we wanna really take a deep dive. The reality is in a district like West Bloomfield, what we all have to do in this room is there are a lot of private schools in neighboring areas, and there is a perception that private means better than public. And our job is to show that no, public offers more opportunities, more access, more experiences, more athletics, more clubs, more sports, more representation, more AP classes, more early college programs, and that's what we have to do, because ultimately, I fly coach, right? I'm a public school educator. I'm gonna fly coach, but if somebody's making triple my salary, they're gonna fly first class, and our job is to say that we offer a first class education within a public school, and that really is where we can make up the biggest difference, is that people choose that in this community at quite a high rate, and all of the neighboring districts we have seen, and I'm not gonna name districts, but kind of the exemplar one that everyone says is the best school district in the state of Michigan, has experienced enrollment decline for the past 10 years at a shockingly alarming rate. And you know why? Because people elect to go to a private school, because that community is very affluent. So what we have to do is we have to help Andrea and help ourselves by being ambassadors of our district and really pushing that kids who graduate from here have every opportunity to be successful. And I would challenge more so than if you went to some of our private school competitors. And I can see that from the children of board members sitting at this table, who are well represented by a public school and are off in the world doing wonderful things. So to me, that's one of our biggest charges, really making sure we tell our story, because it's a good one.
Amen. Okay, anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you, Emma. School of Choice 26-27 discussion. Mr. Scott Long, Assistant Supervising Services will address the board.
How is there snow on the ground in this December already? Oh my goodness. What's happening at time? Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me this evening. So I'll go over a little bit of overview of schools of choice and the different ways in which we can apply for schools of choice, talk a little bit about criteria-based schools of choice, share a preliminary recommendation, and go from there. So we typically and historically have gone through section 105 for schools of choice, which ultimately says that we would enroll students within Oakland County, neighboring districts within Oakland County. And part of that legislation allows us to have a specialized program. And with that specialized program, students that are schools of choice must meet a specific criteria and residents must also meet that same criteria. The legislation also says that we may refuse to enroll a non-resident applicant, so a schools of choice applicant, if they've been suspended for the preceding 2 years, any occurrence of suspension, which is another thing that we look at throughout our schools of choice process. So for us, we have our STEAM criteria-based program, as you know, second year running with criteria-based, and we have it at the K-5 level, the middle school level, and the high school level. And what's really exciting to me is that there's this vertical alignment that we have with Project Lead the Way, which you'll see in the next slide. For us at the elementary level, we basically take 2 pieces of major data. We look at benchmark assessment data, so in our district it's NWEA, and we have a scaled score for that. And so we take the percentile of a student for their benchmark assessment for winter, and we convert it to a 1 through 4 scale. That's multiplied by 2. We weight that heavier than the grades. And then we take the students' first semester report card grades in the 4 core classes, so science, social studies, English, and math. We get an average for that on a scale of 4, just like a GPA. We add that to our 2-time multiplier for the benchmark assessment. We divide that to get an overall 1 through 4 scaled score for the student. Historically, we've been 2.8 or higher gets you in. So generally speaking, a student that's in the 55th percentile on NWEA will have to have really strong grades to be able to make our cut. Conversely, a student with a really high NWEA benchmark might have a little bit lower grades and be able to make the cut. What we found is that criteria has been very helpful for us because they come to us successful, and then with our experience and our education, we push them even higher. We have, for incoming kindergarten students, a different set of criteria that we look at. We look at our kindergarten readiness assessment, and we have a situation where the students come in into a group of students, and we look at how they transition, how they listen to adult directions, how they interact with each other, and that's how we use the kindergarten criteria. And then at the middle school and high school, the criteria that I described for 1st through 5th grade is very similar. So as I mentioned before, it's really exciting to me that we have this vertically aligned STEAM program at the K-5 level. Kids get an introduction to Project Lead the Way experiences. So I know for K2 students this year, they learned about animated storytelling. And then the second semester, they're gonna do the stars and learn a little bit about the science behind stars, which is a really great connection to our science curriculum as well. At the middle school level, you branch off into lots of different electives that students can take, from design modeling to medical detectives to creating their own apps. You'll walk into Jen Ladd's class and see kids designing their own apps that actually work. Fitness trackers, all that kind of cool stuff. Then when they get to the high school, they have an introduction to engineering design, and that kind of scoots them into a specific pathway for the high school. You'll see here at this slide, it gives you kind of a history of where we've been the last 3 years with criteria, or with schools of choice period. So in 23-24, we had an open lottery system. So there was no criteria established. Anyone could apply. They hit the lottery, up to 250 slots that we had K through 12. And then in 24-25, we transitioned to criteria based. We had 215 total slots. You'll see the breakdown: 105 K through 5, 20 at the 6th grade level, and then 90 in 9th and 12th, 9th through 12th, which actually at that time it was only 9th and 10th graders. And then last year, the board approved 200 total slots. Our preliminary recommendation for this year, and you're gonna hear a little bit more about why, is 215 total slots, criteria based, 110 at the K-5 level, 25 6th through 8th, and 80 9th through 12th. So this just gives you kind of a chart, very similar to what Johanna was walking you through by grade level. But what you'll see here are the students that enrolled by grade level for schools of choice and met criteria. So for example, we had 69 kindergarten students. We actually had more than 69 meet criteria, but 69 met the criteria and hit the lottery and enrolled. And then our overall enrollment for kindergarten was 279. You'll see that that group that's moving to 1st grade, significantly lower than our current 1st grade group. And on top of that, you have about 25 students that are currently in kindergarten prep that will stay in kindergarten. So really you're looking at about I'm not great at math, but 250-ish, 248-ish kindergartners going to 1st grade next year. Ultimately, what we're saying is we actually turned away 48 elementary applicants that met our criteria. They didn't hit the lottery, so they weren't able to enroll. We feel like increasing from 100 from board approval last year to 110 gives us the flexibility to accept and enroll qualified candidates, while also hopefully filling in spots where we could use some filling. You'll see like the second going to third grade, the numbers are a little bit lower. The K going to first. We anticipate our kindergarten class next year will probably be lower based on birth rates. At the middle school and high school level, we turned away 23 middle school applicants last year that met criteria. They're banging on the doors to get into the middle school. We'll have space specifically at 6th grade, but also in 8th grade. We feel like the flexibility of having 25 slots there with good candidates would help out with enrollment and programming. And you'll see at the high school level for 9th and 10th grade, we're asking for 80. We did not fill all of our 90 slots last year for 9th and 10th grade. Hopefully we'll fill those 80 slots at high school. It's great to give us the flexibility to be able to fill them if we have students that meet the criteria. Because as Dania mentioned earlier, it helps with programming, the higher numbers of enrollment. We can continue to offer the great things that we have at the high school.
What I just wanna make clear though on the high schools, as you notice, they didn't change the criteria to let more in. I mean, they stuck to the criteria that was established, so you saw lower numbers coming in at 9th grade.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I just wanna point it out, cause sometimes people think it's a sliding scale and it's not.
It isn't, no, we stay consistent with that with our residents and our school of choice students, K through 12. It's important for us to follow what the guidelines are and be consistent with that. We get lots of appeals, lots of families that reach out and want us to make an exception, and we don't do that. So just to review, we're preliminary recommendation is 110 students K through 5, 25 students 6 through 8, and 80 students 9 through 10. This right here shows you the window, if the board were to approve of when families would be able to apply, testing window for those that need access to that. Many don't now because they just turn in their school district benchmark assessment from where they're coming from. Some random situations where they don't have a benchmark assessment, so they come to us to take it on that particular day. All of our kindergartners that apply for schools of choice come in on that Saturday. We kind of stage them out in waves. It's one of the most exciting days, seeing all those young ones come in, and we would notify families by February 20th.
Okay, questions? Kristen?
Thank you for explaining the criteria
Yeah.
for that. I have a question about the lottery. So how does that work so that we don't end up, like, what if all 100 of them are 5th and 4th graders?
So like a couple things that happen. So first the kids have to meet criteria, then they have to hit the lottery, and then there has to be space in that grade level for us to accept them. So if we're capped out in 5th grade and they met criteria, we don't have the space, sorry.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I love that you lowered the high school since we didn't need it anyways. I appreciate that. I'm curious about the middle school because we have a pretty strong enrollment there, and for the last 2 years, residents have been coming back. You guys have shared that we have a high number of residents re-enrolling. So what's the rationale of increasing the amount that we're accepting there?
Yeah, great question.
Versus like maybe taking more elementary?
That's a great question. So you'll see our 5th grade group that's going to 6th grade considerably lower than our current classes of middle school. Kind of some forward thinking and projecting and leveling out those class sizes at the middle school level, moving them into the high school and beyond.
Do you have like a goal number of how many kids you want in a grade?
Yeah.
in a perfect
Lots of goals.
utopia,
If you look at trends, it would be great to be consistently at 330 to 345 in every single grade level. That's what I would love to see. That stabilization just helps with planning for staffing, planning for where we're going as a district, making sure that we have exactly what we need to support our students.
That makes sense, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm gonna make a statement, then I have some questions that follow. So I'm a massive and firm supporter of Section 105, School of Choice provision. So I support the effort. Always have, I still do, and I always will. So the question questions really stem more so around, you talked about your targeted population of 330, 335. And, board member here, Davis was asking about, you know, the students. So what's the goal of really pushing that 330 into 335? I don't wanna insinuate, but I think I know, but I need for you to tell.
What's the goal?
How do we want
Consistent
the-
enrollment in our school district stabilizes and ensures high quality programming, consistency of staffing from year to year, avoiding layoffs for staff, keeping great teachers in classrooms throughout the district.
So each student provides revenue.
I mean, yeah,
Okay, so if the goal is revenue, again, going back to the North Star is student achievement, right? So if we look at against what systems do we have in place when we include, you know, our total population, that we can say that at 330 that our students are achieving. So based on the Michigan school data, our students in West Bloomfield aren't scoring, you know, on our Michigan assessments where some of our neighborhood districts are. And again, we have one school that's not scoring even at state. So when we look at that kind of thing and we think, well, what should we be doing in regards to student population? And how do we make sure that we are achieving that North Star of student achievement? And not just the revenue portion of that, because,
yeah.
you know, it's very important that we make sure our students are performing. So what systems do we have in place to make sure, and how are they measured?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm gonna answer your question completely. I'm gonna do my very best,
Okay.
Based on what I heard you ask. One thing I think was very significant for us when we look at schools of choice 3 years ago, when we had an open lottery system and any student could get in regardless of criteria, no criteria included, what would often happen is you're taxing our current staff because there's higher needs in those classrooms from coming from outside of the district, right? The criteria, I think, has really leveled that off and changed that. So our focus can be, if students do need additional support that are residents, we're able to do that for them. So I think that systematically has helped significantly. Any student coming from us from any other district in Oakland County, they don't require additional support. They're already successful. They're gonna just be boosted even higher when they come to us. So that's one part of the system. The other part of the system is, I think, like any presentation that we've given on achievement and our strategic plan and the things that we're doing to attack proficiency levels at all grade levels in all schools to make sure that our students have the best education. That's a whole nother presentation, right?
It is, but I wanna go back, Stein, just for a bit. When we talk about in prior years though, within West Bloomfield, when we talk about school of choice, the school of choice students weren't accepted at the high school or the middle school. It was only accepted at the elementary levels with the testing
The
criteria.
high school always took school choice.
Yeah.
Always. It's our biggest numbers of the lot.
So if we do talk about then, because it's hard to compare years past because we had a different system of letting or school of choice entry points. Our system from years past is different from our system now. So it's difficult to compare because they're oranges and apples and not apples to apples. So if we look at our current system now though, and we say that we do have a criteria system, we also are faced with looking at the real data on our schools as is reported by the Michigan school data that says that our schools aren't performing as well as some of our neighborhood schools. And that just happens to be the data that's out there. So if we look at that and we say, well, how can we then say we're going to boost our schools to make sure that the school of choice school students that get in, how can we assure that when they come in, that they'll have that quality education as well as our residents?
Well, what's exciting and encouraging to me is if we look at the overwhelming majority of our grade levels district-wide, the percentage of kids that are scoring proficient has increased from year to year to year over the last 3 years. So I think that's an encouraging note that gives us some promise and hope that we're continuing to provide a great first-class education for all of our students.
Okay, and then my last one.
Wait, I wanna make.
Oh, I'm concept.
I wanna, if
Okay.
anyone else has a question, then you can go back in.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question? Okay, go ahead, Deborah.
And so then my last one is that, again, looking at, again, the Michigan school data, which is the data that's reported by everyone, and looking at the school choice, and we talk about the goals, is a smaller class size more preferable for educational purposes and for student achievement?
I think you can have smaller class sizes and have school choice students, and that's evident this year in our district. I think you can have both,
It'll be interesting to see what the data is at the end of this year.
yeah.
Yeah, our class sizes are increasing based on that target of 330. I think that's idealistic, that we hope to get there, but ultimately, we've continued to make sure that the district is operating, within our budgetary constraints. I mean, the school of choice numbers have come down over the years, but also birth rates have come down, so that's why you don't see the school of choice percentage coming down as much. But this was, going to the system we have, we knew that we would lose more students than general, because what we're not doing is we're not opening the floodgates of school of choice as a means to get to that 330. What we are doing as a district is attacking the data, attacking the achievement, attacking facilities, all of those different things that, most likely people in 4 or 5 years will see the benefit of that. You gotta plant the seed for the plant to grow, but when you change, if you look in the district, and even prior to 23-24, 250 was the norm. So when you go down that significantly, you're already losing that many students. Compounded now with the criteria, right? We've turned students away who wanna come, but don't meet the criteria. You're gonna have a lower return rate, even on that 215. So what I'll tell you is, I'm hopeful that we fill the 215, Ashley, but my guess is we'll be similar or maybe a little bit better than we were last year. This just gives the team flexibility to fill them at those grade levels as they need. But again, it's not far off of last year's number. It's just to give them a little bit more flexibility, but I bet you the percentage that come will be pretty similar to this current school year.
Which has been intentionally of the board too.
Correct,
To reduce,
yeah, that was
reduce
the,
our reliance
that
on
was
school
the
of
charge,
choice.
yeah, that we aren't reliant on it to balance
Yeah.
the budget,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have one more follow-up question, sorry, and I remember, trustee Davis saying before that, focusing on the grade that's coming into the new building, right, so that they have a sense of community and stuff like that, is that the priority also with this too?
I think if you look at where we have space, like at the middle school, you'll see that, I'll go back to that slide.
Sorry.
No,
it
it's
just
okay.
made me
No, I
think
really
about
appreciate
that.
the question. You're gonna see that there's not a whole lot of space here for 6th to 7th. Plenty of space from 5th to 6th, right? That's actually works out really well. Now, will we get 25 qualified 6th grade candidates? Hopefully, that would be great. And then they fill those slots, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I think too, our transition, our shift of, we used to be 9-12 high school, and now we focused on 9th to 10th, is more in line with what we're looking at too. And in kindergarten, historically, we enroll, and you can see that on the data here, our numbers of enrollment for schools of choice is always higher in kindergarten, because it's an entry point for families, right? Yeah.
And I just wanted to put in the room that kindergarten is not mandated in Michigan. A lot of students do their own private or homeschool for kindergarten and then come for 1st grade. It is not mandated. So, I'm hoping that based on that numbers, it's a balance between kindergarten and 1st grade, so that you don't have one of those small classes that we have to take later on. I'd rather them be with us the duration of
Agreed.
their education
Yeah.
than just in secondary. I think the outcomes are better for the students, and I think the consistency is better for our district.
Agreed.
There's one last thing I just want to follow up with. When it comes to, again, the student of choice, and we talked about, per student, per revenue, I think, again, I've asked for a budget to understand what the levers are. It would be wonderful to know that, hey, 330 would put us at this revenue level, 306 could put us at this revenue level, so we understand, how that student population is really driving our revenue numbers, so we can make some good choices and say, well, you know what? You know, when we come about revenue, we wanna, you know, make sure our district is certainly operating within its financial constraints. However, though, we think that at this time, maybe 215 isn't the number. Maybe we could say maybe 200 would be the number, even 190. But only if we have a budget plan do we actually know that. Because right now, I don't know what 215 equates to in revenue, and nor do I want to from a detail perspective, but I think it would be helpful from a budget perspective when we know the different levels that trigger our revenue and that trigger our expense.
I don't think it's only about
Yeah, I
revenue and
was gonna
expenses,
say,
it
I
also
don't
has to do
understand
about
the
building
cost.
capacity and having, the facilities, you
And
know, 75-80% full instead of,
And the variety of classes that can be offered with
Yeah.
more students,
so
especially.
it's not
in high
just
school.
about
But that
revenue.
has everything to do with
But
revenue.
if you multiply 330 times 13 grade levels, that's actually a lower count than what we're at today. It's a lower count. If you do 330 times 13.
I'm only using 330 because
Yeah, I know,
Put it out
but
as a
because the
number.
high school is at a higher level,
Yeah.
it's not really, I mean, the reality is that the district, the revenue fluctuates from year to year based on the state. To know the number, all you have to do is multiply it 10,500. So even if you say 200 students, it's about $2 million. I mean, that will give you a rough estimate, but it's not that simple. If 10 students leave and the revenue leaves, you really can't adjust. You're not gonna go mid-year and start laying off
And they
staff.
don't leave by class sizes.
Yeah, they don't all leave in first grade,
That'd be
so.
nice.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Now, what I will tell you is like,
Third grade class.
that right now starts the discussion for scheduling classes, for staffing for next year, and all that will be planned out based on these numbers and based on, where we're at the end of fall count and what our retention rate usually is, and then we'll have a staffing plan that is molded to where we're at in terms of student count. People will retire, people will move on, and that's where you make those adjustments throughout a school year. So I think 330 K-12 is kind of the long term, like, hey, that would be nice. It would preserve a lot of programming at the high school level that we want to preserve, and then a lot of our elementary program, like STEAM and things like that. So because the funding is so odd in Michigan, it's a year to year. We do our best to look out 3 years, but as we can see from this most recent budget, they do what they do.
I think it's good information for us to have as board members.
Yeah,
So-
I agree. If you could clarify what you need for Scott, because I still, honestly, I don't
will definitely
understand
do
it.
that, and
Yeah.
I'll share it with the
Yeah.
board.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Well, thank you so much, I appreciate it, have a great evening.
You too. And then number 10 is our Oakland County School Board Association proposed new or amended resolution review. Everybody saw that in your board docs. It's really, a lot of it we already did in June, but they are adding where OCSBA supports the nonpartisan school board elections and the rationale behind it, and the proposed new one fully supports full funding for early on Michigan and early intervention program for infants and toddlers. So that is where they're adding it, and so they have asked each of the 28 districts to vote on that, whether they approve it or they don't. So we will bring this back at the 15th meeting. If you guys have any questions along the way, just let me or Art know. I'm sure either one of us can answer them for you. Anything else you want to add to that? You're good? No? Okay, good. The other thing that Art brought to me from his government relations meeting with OCSBA is the opposition to House Bill 4588, partisan school board election discussion. I don't really think it's gonna go anywhere, and I don't think the Senate will approve it, but there is, OCSBA did a letter to all the representatives, senators and legislators, a letter condemning and not supporting this partisan school boards that they want to implement. I don't support it. I don't believe having an R or a D your name is gonna tell you how you're gonna vote. I really think that that's a little bit crazy, especially when we're talking about children in schools. That's the farthest thing from what should be at this table. But if we want to do a resolution, and you guys know I'm not big on resolutions, but I'm happy to bring it to the board for resolutions to send to our legislators and senators. So you guys can discuss
Think
amongst
about
yourselves.
it, you know?
Hmm?
Think about it, you know?
Anybody have any opinion? What do you think about that?
Well, clearly, I don't think it's necessary to get into the whole partisan school board issue. Whether we need a resolution to that effect, I don't know if that really matters. Really, the only point of doing that is to send a message. How do you send a message to legislators? You can send them a letter. You don't necessarily have to do.
You write them yourself.
Right.
7 emails is better than one.
So, it's by no means necessary. It's obviously at the board's will what we wanna do, but that's my opinion.
Anybody else have an opinion on it?
I don't really love resolutions, but, if the board wanted to do it, I would support this. I don't think that partisan politics belongs at a school board table.
I'm not opposed to the resolution, but I think partisan is ridiculous to include that in school boards.
Anybody else?
And just for my clarification too, so the resolution would be, if we wrote a resolution, it would be against partisan?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
that's what I would,
that's,
yeah.
okay.
I got confused for a second too, because it says OCSBA supports nonpartisan.
Yeah, sounds like.
Yeah.
I had to double read it
I
too.
would use that as a basis, but I have to, they send it to everybody in Oakland County. And really, that's not even, a resolution to go to the House or Senate, it's really to go to Rosemary and Noah, and I'm sure that they would probably not support partisan. Actually, I haven't talked to them, but I can't see them supporting it, so. Up to you guys how you wanna handle it. You want me to bring it to the board on the 15th, or do we wanna wait and see what happens when they get back to work in January?
I don't figure what they're doing in January, but.
You guys agree with that? We'll wait and see, wait and see.
Yeah, should we say something to Rosemary, Noah?
Yeah, I think
about
all of
our
us should.
position?
I think all of us should run our own personal emails,
Yeah, that would be good.
as a trustee. That's always very good to do. I don't see it coming up, I could be wrong, but I don't see it coming up in the very near future. Have you heard anything?
I have
Superintendent
not heard
Wyman?
anything,
No.
no. I think it's the same kind of rhetoric that, they don't see it going anywhere, but,
Okay.
yeah, nothing surprises me
Alright.
anymore.
Alright, so we'll put that in a holding pattern, okay? Alright, agenda item number 12 is our section 31A funding opt-in out resolution discussion. Dr. Danya Bazey, and I will address the board, but I'll start with
Yeah,
you.
So we started off with, if you remember, with 31A, that's the mental health and safety funding. That has a requirement to get the funds, you have to submit, if there's a mass casualty, to an outside investigation, as well as, give up all of your attorney-client privilege with really no understanding of the limits of it. Is it during the grant period? Is it forever? Those questions still haven't been answered. We started off, if you remember, with the resolution A and B, then we had a resolution C, and now most recently we have a resolution D. And the reason for resolution D is that there's been a lawsuit filed by a number of school districts and ISDs, really challenging the legality and the enforceability of having schools required to waive attorney-client privilege. So basically, MDE has been working with the plaintiffs in that litigation to say, okay, what we'll do is, we'll say you have till December 4th to opt in. You can opt in, and then if on December 19th, which the courts have given their word that they'll have some determination based, on the 19th, then if those school districts lose the litigation, you can opt out. Basically, you rescind and you say, you know what, we don't want the money. If they're successful in the the litigation, then we receive the funds and everything's great. The problem is you have to opt in by December 4th to be able to get the funds if they win the lawsuit. So if you say, well, no, I wanna wait to see what the lawsuit happens and then opt in, you can't. But the good part is that if the lawsuit is lost by the plaintiffs, you can rescind it and it's like it never happened. Basically, you never opted in. There's a Latin term that they use, which I don't remember, that basically says, it's like, what happened? No, you never opted in. So it's a very bizarre thing. Now, I wanna clarify. This litigation is only touching the attorney-client privilege. It is not touching the portion of being able to do an investigation if there's a mass casualty. So it addresses the attorney-client privilege, which, in all honesty, even, you know, in speaking to different legal firms, that's the main concern. The concern isn't really the outside investigation. I mean, if you have a mass casualty, you're probably gonna do an outside investigation. So that's not the big concern. The big concern is waiving indefinitely every single employee's rights to that across the district. And so, what we'll bring to the board at on Wednesday at the special meeting would be approval of resolution D that allows the district to opt in, and then rescind if needed. Basically, if we lose the lawsuit, then we'd rescind and say thanks but no thanks.
Okay, do you have any questions?
Question, so I was just looking, our board meeting is on the 15th, which is the Monday. The 19th is when the ruling is supposed to be done.
Yeah.
And so,
We're doing this on the 3rd, on Wednesday.
right, no, I
Right.
get that.
Oh, okay.
But, all right, so we say we vote hypothetically, right?
Yeah.
Will the motion be written so that in the event of the ruling this, the board decides this to rescind?
Well, that's the resolution B basically says that.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I didn't
It
catch
says
that.
that-
I didn't
yeah,
catch
no, no,
that wording,
no,
so.
well,
okay.
that's the
This
rescission
is,
language
yeah,
in it
so basically,
automatically.
yes, so
Okay.
yes, it will. So basically what it'll say is, if the plaintiffs are not successful in litigation and you have to waive attorney-client privilege, then we say, we're gonna rescind it.
an automatic
and It's
rescission.
an
Okay,
automatic rescission.
thank you for
yes.
clarifying that for me. I appreciate that.
Anybody else have questions?
So just clarification, so when it's an automatic rescission, we will not be getting the money?
Right.
Yeah,
And that money is about $700,000.
Unless,
But we don't know how many,
we don't know
People
how
are
many
opting
people are
in,
opting in.
so-
So that's why MDE has given this December 4th deadline. That's why, because people said, well, why are you making us choose now? Like, because they have to then allocate the money based on how
Which
many
is supposed to be
people
in
say
December.
yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So most likely, everyone's gonna do option D, right?
Yeah.
And then, now some who don't wanna take a risk, they'll just say, no, we're willing to do all that, but we'll take on the risk. But that's not what, I don't know any law firm that's recommending that.
So we don't know who's going to, we don't know the pool, because we don't know how many people are gonna opt in.
Nobody knows.
And we don't know how many people opt out either.
We'll find out.
Or I have a rescinding list.
A rescinding letter, right? So
So it's gonna be
it could be
interesting.
anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our hope is that they're successful.
Yeah. That's love. Who knows these
Who
days?
knows, yeah.
Alright, let me turn my page here. Okay, agenda item number 13 is our good for the order. Does anyone have anything? Ashley?
Okay. In the spirit of transparency and accountability, I need to share some information with our entire school board. I'm gonna ask, preemptively, if you could not interrupt me. On March 19th, 2025, our board adopted a new social contract which emphasized focusing on the entire district and with acting with positive intent. In addition, we've collectively agreed to the following guiding principles. Board decisions are made as a public body, and trustees will not take private actions that compromise the Trustees will support majority board decisions. Confidential information will be protected, and trustees will not use electronic communication to deliberate board business outside of an open meeting. With these commitments in mind, I was surprised to receive an email from trustee Kirsten Sonneville Douglas on September 5th, 2025. The email was addressed to superintendent and the school board president, and I was blind copied on it. The email itself raised several serious concerns. It contained evaluative content that compromises the confidentiality of our evaluation process. It also included deliberative opinions on future agenda items and directives regarding the Roosevelt property. This communication, if shared among more than 2 trustees, would constitute an Open Meeting Act violation. To determine the scope of this communication, I submitted a FOIA request on September 8th, 2025, which confirmed that Trustee Douglas blind copied every trustee on this email, which is an intentional and direct violation of the Open Meeting Act. More concerning, Trustee Douglas also blind copied Ms. Colleen Wade, a member of the Heart of the Lake groups, at the time involved with litigation against the school district, and despite explicit legal counsel instructing trustees not to communicate with plaintiffs or their affiliates. I'm gonna give you a packet of information in a moment. In the packet, you'll have the original email, which you've all already seen because you were all blind copied on it, my FOIA request, materials demonstrating Ms. Wade's self-identification as a member of the lawsuit, and then proof of Colleen Wade and Trustee Douglas's current administrative role in a private Save Roosevelt group page. There's also a photo that I'm gonna be giving you in the packet, which was taken just a month ago on October 29th, 2025. It was shared with me by an attendee of an event who described this event as a celebration of efforts to save Roosevelt and serve our community. Notably, both Trustee Douglas and Trustee Evans appeared in this photo, participating in an event which supports an initiative that our board had voted against multiple times. As elected officials, we are entrusted by our community to act in the best interest of children and their education, not to serve the priorities of small interest groups. The conduct displayed by Trustee Douglas reflects exceptionally poor judgment and constitutes a profound violation of the trust that our community has placed on this board. While differences of opinion and debate are natural within governance, knowingly violating the laws, breaching confidentiality, and undermining collective board decisions are unacceptable. I'm sharing this information with the full board because transparency is paramount, and we must confront behavior that compromises our obligations and the integrity of our work. Given Trustee Douglas's transgressions, I can no longer assume she's acting with positive intent or with the best interest of the district in mind. Trust and respect must be earned, and both of these have been undermined. So I'll give you this, you can keep it, do with it what you please. You've already seen the email.
Okay. Can I just ask if any of this was addressed, like, between you and,
Kirsten?
yeah?
No, honestly, I think the whole board needed to know it, and 2, given recent events, I don't really feel comfortable addressing her one-on-one.
So, I have many thoughts in my head right now where we should best go as a board, but obviously we need a workshop of basic governance. So I think that should be at the forefront and some discussion. So I'd like to facilitate that after.
I think that would be helpful.
Is that, okay. All right, so I will reach out to both of you after that, and I will also get some governance on the calendar for the board. Okay, workshop. Okay, agenda item number 14 is our closed session, confidentiality, attorney-client privilege.
President Brickman, I have a comment also, and it's not related to this. But I would strongly encourage that the Board of Education prioritize timely responses to communications
participation of public comments and emails, especially those raising concerns. When families and staff and community members take the time to share their perspective, they're demonstrating trust in the board's role. Acknowledging and addressing these communications not only strengthens transparency and accountability, but it also builds confidence that the community's voices are valued in decision-making. Even a brief acknowledgement can go a long way towards reinforcing public trust and ensuring that concerns are not left unheard. And this would be in relation to public comment and emails that are being sent to our board. Thank you.
Okay, is anybody else? Agenda item number 14, is there